Besides green grass, weeds are probably the biggest concern that most homeowners have with their lawns. Obviously, nobody wants them. Lawn weeds are actually pretty smart plants. Some grow low to the ground, avoiding the mower. Some hurt you if you grab them. Others have 3-foot roots, so even if you pull them out, they come back. They irritate people with allergies, get into cracks in the driveway, causing damage. They spread like crazy. Between wind and birds, a seed can travel for miles. Nothing is more frustrating than being meticulous about your lawn and then looking across at your neighbor and seeing a sea of dandelions. Are you smarter than a dandelion? I'm sure you are. Weeds can be tough, but their weaknesses are evident. Weeds give us a clear indication of what's wrong with our soil. For example, clover tells us our soil is lacking in nitrogen. It's a legume, which it fixes nitrogen by taking it out of the air and making it available to the soil. Plantain and crabgrass like compacted soils. Dandelions are an indication of the soil's lacking in calcium, and sorrel an indication of a low pH. Knowing the weed and what it likes to grow in will help you understand what's wrong with your soil. So between your soil test and the weeds in your lawn, you should have a good idea of what's going on with your soil. So how to get rid of the weeds? Well, fix the soil according to the soil test and stay true with all the other practices we've discussed, like cutting the lawn at 3.5 inches. Solve the problem and don't just treat the symptoms by spraying herbicides. If nature has bare spots available in the soil, it will plant something there. So beat it to the punch and fill in that bare spot with grass. Make sense? In the last chapter of our movie, we'll discuss overseeding. It's a very important practice in natural lawn care. Having a thick, dense turf, mowing at the correct height, good soil, and proper watering habits will prevent most weeds. If crabgrass or dandelions don't have anywhere to take foot, they'll just have to grow where they're welcome, in your neighbor's yard. There's a lot of talk about corn gluten being used as an organic weed pre-emergent. First problem is it's not that effective unless it's timed perfectly at germination, and many weeds will germinate twice a year. Second problem, it's 10% nitrogen, and at the suggested application rates of 20 pounds per 1,000 square feet, it leaves us applying 2 pounds of nitrogen per 1,000 square feet per application. And as we talked about before, the maximum for the entire year is only 3 pounds. If you're getting a pound from leaving the grass clippings on the lawn, along with what's already in the soil, well, obviously it doesn't make sense to add another 2 pounds on top of all that. The third problem with corn gluten is that it's expensive. It's a good source of nitrogen to green up your lawn if you already have adequate amounts of phosphorus and potassium applied at 10 pounds per 1,000 square feet. If you had a major crabgrass problem last year, then you may want to consider using it, but I'd rather see you spend the money on a bag of good seed. Overseeding your lawn in the spring with annual ryegrass is a good alternative. It's less expensive and it fills in the bare spots until you renovate later that summer if you're in a cool area, in earlier summer if you're in a warm zone. Make sure you do it early enough before the weed seeds germinate, which is when the soil reaches 50 degrees. Using an overseeder is pretty easy. Rent one that is hydraulic or self-propelled. Set the depth to 1/4 inch, put your seed in, and just go back and forth as you would mowing a lawn, and then repeat perpendicular. Then keep the seed moist until the third mowing. It's not a cure-all, but I think it's the best remedy. Keep in mind also if you use corn gluten as a pre-emergent, it also prevents grass seed from germinating, so they can't be used together. Say you want to eliminate existing weeds? Well, there are horticultural vinegar-based organic herbicides available, which are pretty effective. Use them in the heat and while the weed is actively growing. They are non-selective herbicides, meaning any vegetation that comes in contact with it will be affected. Don't use it on a windy day or that precious plant in the corner might end up in the compost pile. Very important is that you wear gloves and certainly eye protection when using this stuff. Just because it's organic doesn't mean it's harmless. Get horticultural vinegar in your eye and believe me, you're going to be bumming, so please use the precautions. This stuff is effective and it works quickly, but like I said, it will affect any grass or plant surface it touches. Once the weed dies, rake it up, pull it up, put down a little loam, compost mix, then seed, spray with a little compost tea with mycorrhizal spores, and then keep it moist until the bare spot fills in. Of course, another simple, effective, organic way to eradicate weeds is to simply bend over, pull it out, and then reseed the area.